hope for you. About the only thing that could help you is a heart transplant, and my goodness, that seems awful drastic, doesn't it? There is hope for you, and Dr. Stephen Sinatra is bringing that hope today. Dr. Stephen Sinatra is a cardiologist, and he is the father of metabolic cardiology, the treatment of heart disease with natural measures. I want to give you this hope today, that there is chance that you can get better by implementing Dr. Sinatra's solution. That's our program. Please stay for that. If you know anybody with heart disease, give them a call and tell them to watch this program now. It's that important. You could be saving their life. That's our concept for today. First, let's go to our news. Let's see what's happening in the health world. Addressing the psychological needs of a heart patient reduces the risk of death. New research presented at the Acute Cardiac Care Congress of 2013 finds when intensive care personnel talk to heart attack patients about the psychological needs they may have, over time, it reduces the patient's risk of death by over 50%. The researchers conducted a meta-analysis of 9 previous studies to make the finding. They found heart disease patients respond favorably when doctors and nurses talk to the patient and their family about the changes a heart attack may bring. They also found relaxation therapy, music therapy, and helping the heart attack victims say their prayers all helped reduce death rates. Related research published in the journal Circulation recommends that healthcare providers should treat unhealthy behaviors and lifestyle practices as aggressively as they treat hypertension, elevated cholesterol, or other heart disease-related risk factors. Folks, medicine is slowly but surely changing. Do you see it? Bit by bit, holistic and integrative care are becoming the standard of care here in America. Now here we find if healthcare professionals talk with their patients, and by the way, isn't that a novel idea? When doctors and nurses talk with their patients about their concerns after a major health event like a heart attack, it provides life-protecting benefits in the years that follow, as does relaxation and music therapy. But the most shocking feature seen in this medical journal study is the benefits of healthcare personnel helping patients evoke their higher power through prayer. We are not used to seeing that, are we? Now, our second study comes from the American Heart Association, and they are strongly urging doctors and nurses to aggressively treat unhealthy lifestyle practices. The notion that there is a pill for every ill is slowly but surely fading, and these 2 studies show that the medical authorities of our time have been listening to our concerns about how medicine is practiced today. And I hope they keep listening, because there is much more that needs to be changed. Dietary supplements can help control hypertension and the risk of heart disease. New research published in the journal Integrative Medicine, a clinician's journal, compared 22 hypertensive patients' response to a combination of dietary supplements with a placebo. They found when the hypertensive patients took a combination of vitamin C, grapeseed extract, magnesium, vitamin B6 and biotin, and the amino acid taurine, it reduced their blood pressure levels by 16 systolic and 11 diastolic points. No side effects were even noted. Related research from the American Heart Association reviewed 13 previous studies conducted on more than 135,000 patients. They found those who exercised for 4 or more hours a week were at 20% reduced risk of hypertension. And finally, from the Montreal Heart Institute, researchers have shown that exercise and eating a Mediterranean-style diet is remarkably effective in reducing the risk of heart disease and diabetes in overweight individuals. The researchers report those who made these lifestyle changes showed reduced body fat mass, lowered blood fats and blood pressure, improved exercise capacity and muscle endurance, along with improved resting heart rate and blood glucose levels. Everything got better. Folks, we Americans often assume that if we go to the doctor and he does not prescribe a medication, well, then we've received inferior health care. These studies prove that notion wrong, folks. Natural measures work, and in many situations, they are the only thing that will work. Also, these reports should bolster the confidence of all those who wish to control hypertension and prevent disease with dietary and lifestyle measures exclusively, with no medication whatsoever. Have confidence in your plan. You are on the right track. Well, today on Your Health, we have a special guest who has been instrumental in creating renewed interest in the natural measures used to both treat and prevent heart disease. Without Dr. Sinatra, it's possible that the widespread use of CoQ10 for heart disease would be delayed by decades, or even worse, we may have never learned of it at all. But that is not the case. We have Dr. Sinatra, and he's here today. Thousands now use Dr. Sinatra's metabolic cardiology measures, and thousands have benefited, and so can you. Today is all about treating and preventing heart disease by the means of the Sinatra solution. So stay tuned. We will be right back.
Story of how God was seeking a bride for his son. Each book is different from every other book. I'm trying to give you the keys for you to unlock it for yourself.
This is CBN Newswatch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN Newswatch, because truth matters.
I'll never forget the time I met Dr. Stanley. I told him my idea to plant a church for broken and hurting people, but that I was afraid. He said, "Brian, don't you know God will take responsibility for all of the consequences of a heart that's fully devoted to Him?"
Sunday at 7, Monday at 8. You're watching Life Christian Broadcasting Network, serving El Paso, Alamogordo, New Mexico, and Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Hi everyone, Pastor Phil here along with my wife Mary. This holiday season, it is our sincerest prayer that this will be the best holiday season ever for you and your loved ones. So on behalf of Mary and myself, and all those who are a part of Paradise Point Ministries and the Life Christian Broadcasting Network family, we would like to wish you and yours a happy and holy holiday season.
We are now on Roku. If you have internet access and a Roku box, you can now enjoy the programming Life Christian Broadcasting Television has anywhere in the world. Please visit lifechristiantv.com/Roku for more information.
Welcome back, everyone. As Richard promised, we have a very special guest with us today, Dr. Stephen Sinatra. He's the father of metabolic cardiology. He's board-certified cardiologist with over 40 years clinical experience. He's a certified nutritionist and anti-aging specialist, as well as a bioenergetic psychotherapist. Dr. Sinatra holds an assistant professorship of internal medicine at the University of Connecticut. That means he teaches the doctors.
Right.
Today we're going to be discussing his book, The Sinatra Solution, Metabolic Cardiology. This is such powerful information. Everyone sit back, listen, take notes, get a copy of the DVD today. This information could save a life. Dr. Sinatra, thank you so much for coming back to Texas.
Great to be here.
Thank
It's
you,
just
Dr.
great to
Sinatra.
have you.
Doc, let's talk numbers. For many, many decades, cardiovascular disease has led the top killing diseases in America. Is it still that today? Is it our biggest concern?
Well, what we're seeing now, Richard, is basically coronary disease is sort of leveling off and it's going down a little bit, but heart failure is increasing. So we're getting more heart failure in our society today.
Why is that? Do we
Well,
know?
I think it's a lot of reasons. I think one of the reasons is pharmaceutical drugs. Statins can cause cardiomyopathy because they diminish not only cholesterol, but coenzyme Q10. So, with a lot of mercury in the atmosphere, because mercury is a very toxic heavy metal for the heart, and that can cause cardiomyopathy. So, with a more toxic environment and with more pharmaceutical drugs that can have an adverse effect on the heart, sure, heart failure has been increasing.
Yeah. You lecture frequently about the true causes of heart disease and that cholesterol isn't as big of a player as we have thought in the past. This little dip, the slight dip in heart disease numbers, could it be to intervention with statin drugs? Could it be playing some role?
Yeah, I believe so, especially in men. Statins will have an effect in middle-aged men, a positive effect. And in other words, that's the population that should be treated with statins, a middle-aged male with coronary disease. And in that population, those males tend to have less cardiovascular events. Now, would I treat a woman with statins? Sort of unusual. Very, very rarely a child, but certainly men. And that's made a difference. There's been less heart attacks, less coronary bypass surgery, less intervention, angioplasty, stents in those men who have pre-diagnosed heart disease. So with secondary prevention, there's been an improvement with statins.
Okay, when we say heart disease, this is an umbrella term for what conditions?
It can be coronary artery disease, it can be valvular disease, it could be heart muscle disease, like what we call a cardiomyopathy. It can be a hormone problem, like hyperactive thyroid, for example, can cause problems to the heart. But that we call that metabolic heart disease. So heart disease can be, thrown into this, big pot. We can get alcoholic heart disease, and we call that alcoholic cardiomyopathy, myocarditis, where we get a Coxsackie virus infection of the heart, and that can weaken the heart muscle. So it can be almost anything.
But the big player is the coronary artery disease.
Yeah. That's the big one. That's the big one, yeah.
If I have one of these cardiac diseases, help us understand how it makes us feel. What happens to us?
When you have, first of all, about 20% of the population, especially women. Now, this is more of a women's problem than a male problem. We call it diastolic dysfunction of the heart. Forgive me about using that term, but basically, the heart has a little bit of struggle when it fills with blood, and it takes more energy to fill the heart with blood than to empty the heart with blood. And women with high blood pressure, and by the way, high blood pressure in a woman is worse than a man. But women with high blood pressure tend to get more diastolic dysfunction than a male does. And the only symptoms that she may have is a little bit of fatigue and some shortness of breath. That gets worse over time. So that can be a very, very subtle symptom of early heart disease in a woman.
So she could feel like I'm just out of shape.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
When it's really heart disease.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And then later on, these women develop what we call systolic dysfunction, and they develop heart failure,
So what kind of blood pressure would you like to see in these women?
Oh, the lower the better. I mean, we used to think of, when Richard and I went to medical school, we used to think that 138/88 was good. Yeah. Now that's hypertension. That's high blood pressure. We like to see like 118/70, or 78 at the very, very most. So we've come down in our numbers. So we like lower blood pressure today than higher a few years ago.
Your book is titled The Sinatra Solution, Metabolic Cardiology. What do you mean by this metabolic cardiology?
Well, it's treating the heart at the metabolic level. I mean, what I learned as a cardiologist was when I did my angiograms and when we did bypass surgery, we were treating the organ. But remember, the organ got sick literally years before. Energetically, the heart was impaired years before the event would happen. A classic example is, like I just said, heart failure. For example, you may be having fatigue and shortness of breath, and it may take 10 to 20 years to have that overt heart failure. And basically what metabolic cardiology is, it's not only trying to prevent heart disease, but it's preventing it at the cellular level. So in other words, I'm treating the organ, but now I'm using nutrients
Oh.
Specific nutrients like coenzyme Q10 and ribose and magnesium and carnitine to infuse the heart with energy. We call it energy substrates. Because remember this, heart failure is an energy-starved heart.
Oh.
So we need to give back energy into the heart.
So we could also call this nutrition for the heart. That'd be another way of saying that.
You could.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What are these agents, the nutrients that the heart depends on most? Let's just go through a few of them.
Yeah, sure. The most important for the heart is coenzyme Q10. There's no doubt about it.
CoQ10.
CoQ10 is the heart nutrient. You know, remember the mitochondria we studied in high school?
I do.
Biology, high school chemistry, and some of your viewers will remember it. These little organelles, they're in a cell, right?
Yeah.
Well, my biceps, my muscle here, has about 200 mitochondria per cell.
Wow.
A heart cell has 3,500 to 5,000 mitochondria per cell.
Well, the heart never gets a break. It's got to go around.
It never gets a break. It
Never.
is beating 24/7. So these mitochondria, it's amazing, but they generate what we call our chi energy. It could get prana, the yoga school. It could be, it's our energy. And basically it's ATP. It's what we call adenosine triphosphate. So the mitochondria are developing this, and there's a paradox here. And it's a biochemical paradox, but I think it's important for our viewers. Every time we generate energy, or ATP, we create free radicals or oxidative stress at the same time. So the human being is a very, very high energy efficient organism, but we produce a lot of toxic waste.
The smokestack effect.
Exactly.
Kind of.
You can't see the smokestack. You can't see the smoke coming out, but we have a lot of waste products in our body. And what happens is these mitochondria that are performing these activities, these 3,500 to 5,000 per heart cell, they produce a lot of toxic waste products and free radicals. And this paradox is important because these mitochondria do not have defense mechanisms. In other words, nuclear DNA have built-in defense. Mitochondrial DNA have no built-in defense. So over time, these mitochondria become tired, they become worn out, they drop out, and guess what happens? We get disease. So the diseases, and I'm going to give you something really new now. This is really exciting.
Okay.
The diseases of the 21st century, migraine headache, autistic spectrum disorder, Parkinson's disease, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, statin cardiomyopathy, diastolic dysfunction, Gulf War syndrome. These are all mitochondrial diseases.
My word.
And why now? Well, basically because the environment is so much more toxic with either, electromagnetic forces, radio frequency forces, cordless phone, cellular phone. We got mercury in the atmosphere. We got insecticides,
and none
pesticides,
of these
heavy
were
metals.
in the Garden of Eden.
That's right. They weren't in the Garden of Eden.
No.
They weren't in the Garden of Eden. And what's happening now is the environment is getting more toxic. So we need metabolic cardiology. We need nutraceutical support to give those mitochondria defense. We got to build it in a defense. And when we do that, our mitochondria thrive. It's like fertilizing a lawn.
When the mitochondria are malfunctioning and not providing energy, that's what causes the symptoms of heart disease?
Yes, it causes the symptoms, and it's premature aging at the same time. That's what a lot of heart disease is. It's accelerated aging. So the mitochondrial theory of aging is really the sine qua non of aging.
I really want to drive home this point. When the chest hurts, short of breath, washed out fatigue, can't go another step, it's because our mitochondria can't keep up with the energy demands. Basically.
That's the basic biochemistry.
I get it.
That's
now
the ground
that's
floor.
making sense. Now, we're headed to a break, but when we return, let's talk about how we fashion a nutritional therapy, the metabolic solutions here for cardiology and the symptoms of heart disease. We're going to talk about CoQ10, L-carnitine, D-ribose, magnesium, fish oil, and how to nourish that starving heart when we come back.
How do you start your day? Maybe with a cup of coffee, a shower, and you eat breakfast. Have you ever thought about how many around the world can't even do these things? I would encourage you to put on an attitude of gratitude. Begin your day by being thankful for what you do have, not by thinking about all the things you don't have. Write down 10 things that you're grateful for. As you begin your day with Thanksgiving, you'll have a better day. Give thanks to the Lord, for He is good. His love endures forever.
You can't buy a best friend, but you can adopt one. 'Cause we're connected.
Who hasn't felt protective lately? Of our families, our communities, our resources? In times like these, we all fight to make sure our people are safe. But when your people, your family, your community is made up of millions of cancer patients and their families, keeping them safe takes everyone's help.
Thanks to your generosity, Marines have delivered Christmas to children in need since 1947.
We're back, everyone, having a fascinating discussion with Dr. Sinatra. This is so important. We're talking about the Sinatra Solution, Metabolic Cardiology. Isn't this just great information today? Got to get this book. We'll tell you a little bit later in the show how you can get it free today. Dr. Sinatra, we were just covered a lot of fabulous information, but I think now we should really go back through one by one and give everyone just exactly step by step what to do to nourish that heart.
Sure. You know, the most important thing about, breathing energy into the heart is we have to give the heart energy substrates.
Right.
And basically, at the top of the list is coenzyme Q10. Because coenzyme Q10 is used by these mitochondria to drive the machinery, to drive the ATP.
Yeah.
Now, what coenzyme Q10 does, it increases the turnover of the ATP. So people with heart disease have low levels of CoQ10 in their bloodstream as well as their hearts. You can biopsy a person with heart failure, and the amount of coenzyme Q10 in the heart is much lower than a counterpart with a normal heart. Yeah. So these people need coenzyme Q10, and there's been great studies in the literature. And the last one came out of the European Society. They had their meetings in Spain, and it showed that people with heart failure who had higher blood levels of coenzyme Q10 lived much longer than their counterparts. So people getting CoQ10 as a supplement with heart failure thrive. They do very much better than the ones who don't
Don't we
get
naturally make CoQ10? How come that doesn't kick in and stay going?
We do. We do naturally make CoQ10, but here's the problem. Is if you have any form of heart disease, I don't care if it's coronary artery disease, a diabetic heart, a valve, a muscle problem, cardiomyopathy, any form of heart disease, the body uses up the ATP quicker. In other words, it's like putting change in your pocket. You have a hole in your pocket, you keep putting change in it, you have no change in your pocket.
What's up with that? Where's the money going?
What happens is that the heart utilizes more ATP and the body can't make it back fast enough. So what we need to do in patients with heart disease, we need to give them coenzyme Q10, D-ribose. Now D-ribose is the center of the ATP molecule. It's a nice picture in the book. We could maybe show it to the public. But basically, D-ribose is a what we call a reducing sugar. You take it 3 times a day, and basically This helps to form the ATP molecule.
Yeah.
CoQ10 helps to turn it over. The carnitine helps to turn it over. And magnesium is like the glue that takes the whole operation. It is involved in 300 enzymatic reactions, and it drives the reaction to the point where we're producing a lot of ATP.
Now, Doctor, I read in your book that CoQ10 helps the heart use glucose for energy, and carnitine helps the heart use fats. Did I get that right?
Yes, you got it right. Remember, we call it the carnitine shuttle. Basically, the heart requires about 60 to 70% of all the energy derived from the heart comes from fat.
See, I didn't realize that till you brought that to our attention.
Burning of fat. Now, how do you get the fatty acids into the furnaces, these factories we call the mitochondria, these burning furnaces, right? Yeah. Well, the carnitine takes the fats into the mitochondria, and we call it the beta oxidation of fats. They're burned for fuel.
Right.
So that's why omega-3s are important, and these healthy fats and saturated fats are important because they're fuel for the heart. Moreover, the carnitine shuttle now, I call it a ferry boat or a freight train, it takes the burned out metabolites inside the heart and takes them out.
So it goes both ways.
Yeah, remember the human body is a high energy body, but a high toxic waste, so it takes the waste out of the heart. So when I developed metabolic cardiology, for me it made sense as a metabolic cardiologist to bring these 4 nutrients to the table.
Yeah.
Carnitine brings the fats in to be burned for fuel, takes the toxic metabolites out. Coenzyme Q10 turns it over. Ribose helps to form the fuel. And magnesium creates the enzymatic reactions, or it participates in the enzymatic reactions for the whole process to take over.
That's amazing. Tell us more about the magnesium. This is the forgotten mineral.
Oh,
we all know about calcium.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Magnesium is, first of all, we're all depleted in magnesium. All 3 of us are depleted in magnesium, unless we take magnesium salts. Yeah. We should all be using Celtic salt or Himalayan sea salt. We should be taking magnesium because it's not in our soils anymore. It's totally depleted. Yeah. And basically, we need magnesium. I mean, magnesium is one of the most endothelial-friendly, what we call minerals around. In other words, remember I said that insulin is a unfriendly hormone?
Yes.
Well, magnesium does the opposite. Magnesium is so calming to spasm and blood vessels.
So you're saying that if you have a magnesium deficiency, it can actually cause cardiac symptoms, make the angina
absolutely.
worse.
Because the big one is hypertension. I mean, rise in blood pressure can be due to a magnesium deficiency. Magnesium deficiencies can cause angina, or like a cramp inside the heart. Certainly can cause diastolic dysfunction because magnesium is needed for energy. Remember, there's more energy to fill the heart with blood than to empty the heart, so we need magnesium.
You know, not too long ago, a study was released that said fish oil really doesn't prevent heart disease at all, and it made all the major news outlets.
Oh, yeah.
And I was not convinced of that. What do you say about that?
No. There is too much research to show that the omega-3 essential fatty acids, the EPA and the DHA in fish oil, are very, very important for the heart.
What basically does it do for the heart?
Well, fish oil has a positive impact on heart rate variability, which means that it supports heart rate variability. And whenever we support heart rate variability, and this is like the beat-to-beat analysis of the EKG of the heartbeat. We want our heartbeats not to be fixed all the time. We want it to vary. Yeah. That's why when we breathe in, our heart rate gets faster.
So a steady, precise rhythm is not a good thing.
Good.
You want the variability.
You want the variability, and fish oil does it. Certain foods will help, like tofu and nuts. Omega-3s will do it. Walnuts will help do it. But basically, there are drugs that can impair heart rate variability, and we want to stay away from those drugs.
What about the drugs that lower CoQ10?
Oh, you mean the statin drugs?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, the statin drugs. Again, if you're a male and you have coronary disease, I support low-dose statins, but I give CoQ10 because remember, they're marvelous cholesterol killers, but they knock out the pathway for coenzyme Q10 at the same time. So what happens, one of the reasons why these people get cardiomyopathy, heart muscle weakening, is you need coenzyme Q10, and if the statins lower it and lower it too much, the heart muscle suffers.
Isn't this a little ironic that one of our main heart disease preventing tools, Lipitor or a statin drug, actually depletes our nutrients to the heart? Is this correct?
This is absolutely correct. When I was chief of cardiology at my medical institution in 1993, I used to lecture for the drug companies because I solely believed in my own heart about the cholesterol theory. Yeah. But when it came out in 1993 that these drugs killed CoQ10, It didn't make any sense to me.
How could it help us then?
How could a drug be so useful to the heart and take out the most vital nutrient for the heart? I stopped lecturing immediately for the drug companies. And
maybe this is why our drop in heart disease rates have only been a little with all this statin therapy. It just dropped it a little bit, yeah?
Yeah, it's dropped it. And again, we're more aware of the environment. But again, statin therapy's increased heart failure, so it's almost like a wash.
So let me get this right. The metabolic cardiology, the CoQ10, carnitine, ribose, magnesium, it helps to fuel the heart, give it the energy it needs so it can perform these tasks without disability.
Exactly.
And if you're suffering with heart disease, you can supplement these agents and improve your heart condition, right?
Exactly.
Good. We have a break. We're going to talk about heart disease in women next.
We're back, everyone. We're having so much fun. I almost forgot to turn to the camera when my floor director says, "Now, Cindy, now." And I'm thinking, oh, but I'm having so much fun with Dr. Sinatra, I get carried away. This book is just fantastic, everybody. I know some of you have it, some of you don't, but a way for you to get this book today is with your purchase of the Heart Smart plan. You know what that is. That's the CoQ10 L-carnitine, the D-ribose, the magnesium, and the fish oil. As a kit, you're going to get this book free. Or with the organic noni, this is a case of noni, the regular noni, or the concentrate, you're going to get the book free. So you get to pick. What do you want today? That way, make sure you get what you need for you.
Cindy, this is also the latest updated edition.
That's true.
Yeah.
This is
so
fantastic.
All the current information
now,
is there.
We're just dying to get on to some other topics, but you had a question that came up you wanted to ask Dr. Sinatra.
This has been bothering me for 30 years, and I finally have an expert to help answer this question. So, Doctor, in medical school, I remember distinctly, we were taught that congestive heart failure in general, has a higher death rate than cancer. So it's better to be told you have cancer than heart failure. And one of the reasons that was assumed to be so was the notion we thought the heart cannot regenerate new heart muscle cells. Is this still true, or do we know better?
Well, actually, one of the reasons why I came out with this edition, this is a 2011 edition, it came out in 2005, 8, and 11, was I read this article in Science, the journal Science, and it was called Cardiomyocyte Renewal.
That's what we want to know.
And, something good came out of the atomic testing, after the Cold War, where you can measure carbon-14 in the atmosphere, and we all inhale it. We can tell the age of our cells. So we can tell how old our cells are. And what happened here was remarkable. With carbon-14 testing, what we found and what we're finding now is that our intrinsic stem cells in our bone marrow, we call them mesenchymal stem cells, are replacing our tissues very quickly. Like the lining of our mouth and the lining of our GI tract is replaced once a year. We didn't know that. What I learned about the heart is that about 40% of your heart over a period of a lifetime is replaced by intrinsic stem cells. So if you had a massive heart attack in your 30s or 40s and you had heart failure and you're living into your 60s, 70s, or 80s, well, guess what probably happened?
You got a new heart.
You got a sort of a new rebuilt heart. At least some of your stem cells are rescuing it. And I always thought to myself, because I believed, or I was taught like you were taught in medical school, and I've always thought that what is so incredible about metabolic cardiology? What metabolic cardiology does, because you're infusing energy substrates or ATP into the heart, not only are you reviving those cells and rejuvenating those cells, you're repairing them.
Yeah.
You're buying time. Now you're
Right.
buying time, and this is so important. This is so important. You know this, we all know this. The human body has the intrinsic wisdom to get better.
Amen, brother.
It does.
It does. God gave us that.
Absolutely. We think positive thoughts. We pray. We eat organic foods, healthy water, take targeted nutritional support, do some mind-body, do a little earthing, grounding. We give the body what it needs. The body has the wisdom to get well. I don't care what illness we have. When you buy time with metabolic cardiology, now the intrinsic stem cells come in. That's the wisdom of the body.
So if we can relieve the symptoms, give them a break, give them
Yes.
a little time to heal,
Yes.
it can really come back and help us with
And
these
give the body
disorders.
the raw materials it needs. Sunshine. I
Yes.
call them God's simple
Yeah,
cures.
what about vitamin D and heart disease? What's the status?
Oh, no, it's important. I mean, you have low vitamin D levels, that can contribute to heart disease, cardiomyopathy, especially metabolic syndrome, which is a leading cause of heart disease. That's that inflammatory diabetic condition that we're seeing more and more today.
So, Dr. Sinatra, what you're saying is it's not too late. It's never too late to join this plan. If you already have had an event, if you're already suffering from heart disease of whichever nature, this plan can still help you.
Oh, anytime you bring nutritional support to the table, you know, bring a little positive and think positive. We got to have our people, look, if you have heart disease, it's not a death sentence.
That's right.
Thank you.
If you have cancer, it's not a death. I mean, you're a survivor of...
I'm here.
You're here.
It's a tough go, but I'm here.
And basically what we really need to look at, if disease is placed in our path, and lots of times it's placed in our path to shake us up because we've been
I will attest to
You'll
that.
attest to that.
I will.
Okay. So if it's placed in our path, it might be an opportunity for us. And then we have to look at it. We can't become a victim. It can be an opportunity, and we can feed the body what it needs, and that's what we do with metabolic cardiology.
Let's talk about how heart disease affects women, and I'm thinking of the caregivers in the home. When the kids are sick, mom comes and help, or grandma comes and help, and we count on them for so much in the family. How is heart disease different in women than men?
Well, first of all, they have different symptoms. But second of all, women are more at risk today than men.
Really?
Yes. More women are dying.
It's
Yes, it's changed. The graphs have crossed, I believe, in 1998. That's why I wrote the book, Heart Sense for Women. No, the graphs have crossed. Like, most women fear breast cancer. I mean, it affects 1 in 6 women, but heart disease will kill 1 in 2 women. So it's very, very important that a woman realize that. And what are women doing today? Well, they're being like a woman, acting like a man, and working like a dog. And when you have that trilogy, you mentioned it,
tough.
I mean, they're multitasking. They're overstressed. I was going to write the book Vital Exhaustion, because when a woman gets exhausted, I believe her blood clumps more than a male's. That's my belief. And when that happens, when you get red ketchup blood, then you're inviting heart disease in your life.
Wow, amazing. Where do we go next? Let's go to our break. When we return, I want to talk about spirituality and the practice of medicine. Can you believe it? They're recommending that doctors and nurses pray with their patients now? What a change. We'll talk about that when we return.
The U.S. State Department defines anti-Semitism as violence against Jews and hold Israel to a double standard and deny the Jewish state's right to exist. With this understanding, it's easy to see that anti-Semitism is on the rise around the world, and even the church is guilty. Those calling for boycotts, divestments, and sanctions against Israel are often leaders of mainstream Christian denominations. On the secular side, the UN falsely accuses Israel of war, yet fails to condemn Hamas for using women and children as human shields. The Bible clearly states that those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. Those who engage in acts of anti-Semitism will surely receive their just and fair reward.
We're back, everyone, talking with Dr. Sinatra about his book, The Sinatra Solution. Listen to this: revive, rejuvenate, and revitalize your heart. The plan really works. I'm telling you, it works. And to help you get this book, what we can do today is when you buy your Heart Smart plan, you're going to get a copy of the book free, or with your case of Noni, whichever one you want, the organic, the regular, or the concentrate, you'll get a book free. So don't miss out on that one. Now, Richard,
yes,
we both, in our own personal health history, journey, however you want to put it, are a testimony to this plan.
Oh, absolutely.
And, you know, in my early 30s, I was short of breath all the time. I've always been physically fit. Well, I learned that I had mitral valve prolapse, terrible headaches, the whole story. Okay, and you have had your story with the cancer and the cardiomyopathy.
Yes.
So CoQ10 was my first one that I learned about. Dr. Sinatra taught us, as we were first starting out our journey in the television situation, all about these products, about these nutrients and how they would help our hearts. We have embraced this whole ideology. We've done it ourselves. And guess what? I went to the doctor recently and they can't find any mitral valve prolapse anymore.
We can heal. We can.
You know?
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing.
It is.
So I just want everyone to know that it's not just trying to push a vitamin. No. This is nutrients, this is education, this is something that can change a life and help you. That's my prayer and my hope for you.
It is mine too. Well put, honey. I love you. You're wonderful.
He's sweet.
Now, doctor, we saw in our news today a paper presented at the Acute Cardiac Care Congress that they found that if heart disease patients, if doctors and nurses talk to them about their emotional fears and the changes that occur with a heart attack, it can actually reduce their death rate in the years to come. This doesn't surprise you, does it? The stress of heart attack. Talk about that.
Well, I think when people have a heart attack, they need to ventilate their fear and just ventilate their feelings. And if a doctor or a nurse or a spiritual healer goes in and tries to comfort these people, this is what they're screaming for. This is what they really need. Because look, when you have a heart attack, what they're thinking is a part of me died. And they're mourning that, but they need to mourn that, and they need to get out those feelings, and that's why it's so important. And that's why, you know, bringing spirituality to the table is just a must-have in anybody with a catastrophic illness.
You know, I would pray with my patients from time to time, and I can tell you, when you summon the Spirit, He comes. He comes.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll never forget, I might have said it on this show years ago, but I had a young woman come in with a couple of twins, and she had a arrhythmia in her heart, and she wanted me to correct it in the office, and I wanted to go to the emergency room, and she said, I can't do this, I got my kids with me, and she says, please, can you do anything? And I tried different maneuvers in the office, you know, to get rid of, she had an atrial tachycardia where the heart's going like this, and I couldn't break her. And then I just put my hands on her belly, my nurse was there, and I prayed and I asked for help. And all of a sudden she broke, and my nurse said, I've seen everything now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I said it out loud too.
Yeah.
I said, you know.
Thank you.
So anyway, it's important, and you have to think positive. Positive intentions heals. Remember that, it heals.
Doctor, you've written about the dirty dozen, the risk factors, the true risk factors for heart disease. Can we go over some of those real quick?
Yeah, sure.
What really causes this heart disease?
Again, cigarette smoking, everybody knows about that. The sugars we hammered, you know, these simple sugars, these sodas. But, you know, there are other ones that are very important. For example, you know, the oils, the omega-6 oils are very prone to oxidation. And a lot of people don't understand that.
Corn oil.
Corn oil.
Canola oil.
Soybean oil.
Soybean oil.
Yeah. Cottonseed oil. These oils people cook with, and these are polyunsaturated oils that are very prone to oxidative stress. You are far better, I mean light years better, cooking with coconut oil, even though it's a saturated fat. And remember, I don't vilify saturated fats anymore, but coconut oil has a large or a high dew point, and it's so resistant to oxidation, it's fine in your body. So if you want to bake or broil, use coconut oil.
And it tastes
even
so
butter.
good.
Even butter has a high dew point.
Dirty dozen anymore.
Oh, mercury is one, insecticides, pesticides. A lot of people don't understand this, is bisphenol A, you know, the phthalates that are in plastic bottles, and, you know, we're seeing a lot of problem with that, especially with higher blood pressure. So environmental toxins are key. Again, when I wrote the book, Earthing, the greatest health discovery ever.
Yeah.
I have to tell you that electromagnetic forces, cordless phone, microwave ovens, all these forces.
Radio waves,
radio frequency waves. These waves can impair the body. So we're also seeing DNA breakdown in quail embryo heart. So we're seeing tissue damage in the animal model or the pigeon model or the quail model from electromagnetics. So there's a lot of unseen forces out there. And remember this.
Go ahead.
The unseen forces can be more powerful or are more powerful than the seen forces. Some of these unseen forces can be benevolent, like prayer and positive intention, where we can reach people, but they can be malevolent in the form of, radio towers, cordless phones, cellular phone, microwave ovens. These forces penetrate the body. We can't see it, feel it, taste it, or smell it, but they're not good for the body.
Okay, quickly before the break, we haven't told people how much CoQ10 should they take? How much L-carnitine? Do we have a dosage? What's a good idea?
Well, if you're healthy, and I don't know if anybody's really healthy today, but if you're healthy, I like 50 to 100 milligrams of a high-quality CoQ10, a good quality ubiquinone or ubiquinol. That's fine with me.
Good place to start?
Yeah, that's a good place to start. If you're on a statin drug, I like 200 milligrams.
Okay.
Carnitine, 500 milligrams is enough for a healthy person.
Side
I'll go
effects?
up to 3 grams. Only side effect I've seen with high-dose carnitine, like 4 grams, is thyroid. So I will tell people that if they do feel a little sluggish, get your thyroid checked.
So that's really high dose.
Very high dose. Those are the doses athletes take.
Okay, all right. Let's go to our break, folks. We'll return for the wrap-up in just a moment.
The Salvation Army. What do you think when you hear the name? Red kettles, donated clothes, helping the homeless? These are all part of the Salvation Army, but they are only a fraction of what it does. As one of the oldest and largest charities in the world, many people are surprised to know that the Salvation Army is first and foremost a church. It was founded in London, England in 1865 by Christian evangelists William and Catherine Booth. The idea was simple: share the gospel of Jesus Christ by feeding the hungry, housing the homeless, and freeing people from addiction. 150 years later, the Booth's mission has spread across the planet. Today, the Salvation Army operates in more than 120 countries. And in the United States alone, the Salvation Army serves about 30 million people a year. Along with Christmas assistance, the Salvation Army is focused on providing hunger relief, housing, and educational services to kids. These and other services are available in Salvation Army Worship and Service Centers. These centers are usually located in poor and crime-ridden neighborhoods where few venture to serve. The Worship and Service Centers are led by Salvation Army officers, ordained ministers who have studied at least 2 years at Salvation Army Training School. It operates stores to help fund rehabilitation centers. These centers provide free, long-term treatment for people battling addiction. So, when you donate goods to the Salvation Army, your old stuff is being used to save lives. Of all the services offered, none of them can happen without the love and compassion of volunteers. Volunteers allow the Salvation Army to spend less on wages and more on serving people. There are about 3.4 million Salvation Army volunteers in the United States. Not surprisingly, the Salvation Army also needs cash donations to operate. In the U.S., more than $3 billion per year is raised. About $140 million of this comes from kettle donations in the 6 weeks before Christmas. America's favorite charity shares the gospel of Jesus Christ, offering its services to millions without discrimination. In the words of William Booth, the Salvation Army stands for hope, that when every other light is extinguished and every other star has gone down, this one gleams shines steadily and clearly out in the darkened sky. If only I could get to the Salvation Army, they will do something for me. The Salvation Army, doing the most good.
Your Health is brought to you by BioInnovations, trusted products for your health and well-being.
We're back, everyone. Just a quick reminder to help you get Dr. Sinatra's book today. With the HeartSmart plan, you're going to get a copy of the Sinatra Solution, Metabolic Cardiology, free, and or with your case of noni, whichever one you want, the organic, the regular, or the concentrate, you're going to get a copy of the book free. So don't miss out on that one today. Time is short, so I know we need to get going. Dr. Sinatra, give us quickly, what would be the ideal diet for a nutrient-starved heart?
Oh boy, that's a great question. I mean, I'm a big proponent of the Mediterranean diet and the Pan-Asian diet. I like the cultures that have longevity. That's the Pacific Rim. And what do they eat? Well, they eat some, non-GMO soybeans. They do a lot of seaweeds, a lot of fish, omega-3s. They get a lot of iodine in their seaweeds, and iodine is very important. What do the Mediterranean peoples eat? Well, a little poultry, lamb. They flavor their sauces with meats, lots of fresh fruits and vegetables. Both cultures eat avocados, which I really love because of the monounsaturated fat. There's lots of phytonutrients, and they're the proanthocyanins. These are like the colors of fruits, like raspberries, blackberries, like we had for dinner. And so you want fresh fruits and vegetables, but we have to stay ahead of a toxic environment. And for example, what's going on in Fukushima and what's going on in our oceans. I used to eat fish 3 or 4 times a week. I'm going to cut down on my fish intake
because of the radiation.
Yes, I'm a little bit worried about it.
That's good.
And it's just important to think about your diet, but stay ahead of the game. But the key is a non-inflammatory diet. So you don't want to do a lot of sugar. Now, I modified the Mediterranean diet. The Mediterraneans eat a lot of pasta. Their pasta over there is non-GMO, though. It's different than our pasta. But basically, it is still wheat. So, in my Sinatra modification of the Mediterranean diet, I've taken out grains. And pastas are to a minimum right now. Quinoa and amaranth.
And you're Italian.
And
That's
I'm Italian.
A lot to say.
It's hard for me. It's hard for me. But some of the grains are okay. A little bit of maybe short grain brown, a little bit. Yeah. White rice sort of out. Quinoa, amaranth are okay. But less on the grains, higher on the fresh fruits and vegetables. I'm a big fan of nuts. And be careful.
Olive oil?
Olive oil, absolutely. Yeah. Dark chocolate, I'm going to throw dark chocolate in there as well.
Chocolate.
Because of the cocoa effect. But, it all starts with a good diet. Remember, organic as much as possible, free range as much as possible. I love buffalo because of the omega-3 factor. No bovine growth hormone in buffalo. Can't do it. So just choose smart and plant-based over animal foods, 70-30, something like that.
I've heard you say before, and lead with your heart. What do you mean by that?
Well, by leading with your heart is you're leading with your feelings. You also want to lead with, authenticity. You want to tell the truth. And, when you wear your heart on your sleeve, if you're out on a limb, like we all do here in alternative medicine, we're being truthful and we're being true to ourselves. And leading with your heart is leading with what you believe is the right thing to do.
Doctor, I don't think anyone would fault you if you just closed your suitcase, went home and retired. You've accomplished so much, and yet you keep going. What drives you today?
I think that, the angels are guiding me, spirits guiding me, and I think I'm placed on this earth to be a messenger for people. I've been in this field for over 40 years now, and I've learned a lot, and I'm still learning.
Isn't it great?
I said this to you facetiously a few hours ago. The problem with being a doctor is it may take you 70 or 80 years to really get it, and then you die. But the important thing now is I just feel that I'm a messenger for a lot of people out there. Whether it's earthing or grounding or supplements or positive intention or cardiomyocyte rejuvenation, it's all good, and we just got to get the message out there. Remember, there's always hope. Remember Bernie Siegel? Even with terminal cancer, there's always hope and a prayer.
That's right.
Thank you, Doctor, for all you've done and all you will do in the future for our suffering people. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks. It was great to be here. Cindy, Richard, love you guys.
Love you too.
It's wonderful.
Great. Thank you, folks, so much for joining us here on this special hour of Your Health. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. We'll join you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Are you sick? Don't you dare sneeze on me. Do you know how far your germs can travel? Normally you hold about half a liter of fluid in your lungs. So when you sneeze, you're able to spray as much as a water bottle's worth of mucus into the air around you. It shoots out of your mouth in the form of moist, germ-infested clouds, traveling up to 35 meters per second. That's fast enough to give you a speeding ticket on the highway. Once that cloud hits the air, it expands, breaking up into snotty strings, then a series of different-sized droplets, all trapped in a turbulent gas cloud. One brave group at MIT discovered that the biggest droplets can travel up to 2 meters, about the distance between your desk and 2 desks away. But most other droplets? Those travel much farther, up to 8 meters. That's about 5 desks away. Not only that, the germ-infested gas cloud is less dense than the air around it, so it rises upwards, right to where ventilation systems and other people's unsuspecting noses and mouths await. Even though these are relatively smaller droplets, they're probably still teeming with harmful pathogens, like the flu virus. Even worse, depending on the ventilation, they can spread through a room in just a few seconds, and remain suspended for up to 10 minutes. Now, if you happen to notice someone around you sneeze or cough, you can hold your breath as you move out of range. But during the flu season, that might not even be enough, because there are danger zones everywhere, especially on surfaces like desks, doorknobs, and steel handrails. It turns out the flu virus has been found to survive for 24 hours on a steel surface. And if you touch that surface and don't wash your hands before eating, you may have just gotten infected. So let's say you go into work sick with the flu one day, and you start to sneeze. Now, according to one study, you'll probably only infect 1 to 2 other people. You're clearly showing symptoms of the flu. However, it's going to take a few days for symptoms to show up in other people you've infected. So those poor souls unknowingly also come into work sick over the next few days. And they will potentially infect 1 to 2 more people. In an office of 100 desks, this could mean 10 or 15 sick people by the end of 2 weeks. That's over 10% of the office. And all of it started with just one sick person, you. All thanks to the germ-laden cloud you so generously shared. So the next time you're not feeling great and you're sneezing up a storm, just think about your poor coworkers and take a sick day for yourself and for them.
And when we can't stay 6 feet from others, please, I'm begging you, wear a face covering.
Behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him.
It's a lot of unrest, anger, hatred.
About 20 years went by. I couldn't stand the pain anymore.
And the next thing you know, you've lost everything.
The struggle to find meaning and hope.
That was the day that I needed God.
Millions searching for the truth, finally finding the answer.
Come to Jesus. Come quickly.
Stories of faith from the front lines of tragedy and despair.
Without hope, we have nothing.